Welcome. In front of me is INFINIX Hot 9, and today we'll see if it is actually hot or not. So let's pop it open. There we go. And straight off the bat we have the phone itself. So drop that to the side. So outside of the phone, under here we have a case and no paperwork. I'm not sure where it went. So yeah, some warranty stickers. Then a super, and I mean super trash charger. This is like the king of the trash chargers, especially considering it's been, well, added to this device and most likely recent timing. Haven't actually checked what year the phone came out, but I'm assuming it was in the past at least 1 or 2 years. And with that in mind, this charger is just unacceptable. And then the cable. So also, as you can see, it's a Type C, not Type C, Type A, and a micro USB. Again, no, just no. So drop that to the side, and we got the phone itself. So go, that's one. And then at the back, another one. Go. And we get the phone itself now. So let's now already mentioned that I did set up the device and check it out just so I have some overview of it. At least in terms of how it performs, and there's also going to be plenty of videos in terms of how it performs in gaming and cameras and all that stuff. So if you're interested in seeing that, then check out our other videos. Now in terms of specifications of this device, obviously you can clearly see the unimpressive display right here. The brightness of it, it's right now max brightness, and just the two lights that are on either side make this display look like it's dimmed, like it's about to turn off, which is not really the look that I would be going for. So this is really, and I mean a really dim display. Now if I actually compare it to my phone, although it's not really a good comparison, let me just quickly pull down notifications or whatever. So this is, for instance, my display right here, and you can clearly see that it is brighter right now, even though it is turned on in the dark mode, which usually does the exact opposite of making it look brighter. But hey, it looks like this phone display is just kind of garbage. Now when it comes down to the size of it, it's a 6.6 inch display with a resolution of 720 by 1600, so it is a fairly budget resolution, honestly. And then it is an IPS LCD display with a 82.8% screen to body ratio, so that is nice actually, and 266 pixels per inch, which is just because of that 720p resolution, so keep that in mind. Then when it comes down to the cameras, there is two variants of it, looks like. Now the one that I have is the 16 megapixel main shooter, but there's also a 13 one, and everything else is the same. So if I lock it and flip it over, you'll be able to see that, there we go, there is the light. So you can see that there is quadruple camera setup there. So the main sensor, like I said, is the 16 megapixel wide sensor on this device. Then there is a 2 megapixel macro and 2 megapixel depth, along with a low light sensor. Now right off the bat, 2 megapixel depth, just useless. There is literally no reason for it to be here. It does nothing for the photos. So that being said, I assume macro, even though it's also 2 megapixel, will probably capture better photos than the 16 megapixel wide sensor can. A lot of the phones in recent timing that have been releasing phones with multiple cameras and like mid-range range, tend to add these macro and depth sensors, but they also have a fairly capable main sensor of like at least 30, 40 megapixels, sometimes even 60. This is not the phone, but in terms of the ones that actually come with a higher, like about 40 megapixel sensors, those sensors can capture better macro photos than a 2 megapixel depth, or not depth, the macro lens. I assume in here it will be the opposite way. The macro, even though it's super crap, it's most likely going to capture a better macro than the 16, because the 16 is just not that great of a sensor, to be honest, especially not on this device. Now when it comes down to it, it shoots at 1080p 30 frames, and also at the front I can also see that we have a selfie cam right in a, oh, can't really, oh, there it is. As you can see, this tiny little circle, that's the camera. So this is an 8 megapixel wide sensor, and it again shoots at 1080p 30 frames, so nothing special here. And just to put the cameras to the test, I'm gonna launch camera up, not Chrome, camera, there we go. And let's get our subject in light right here, and just move it a little bit back, there we go. So this is gonna be the 16 megapixel sensor. It looks like it's also automatically going for the HDR, even though there is no direct light in it. So that's kind of weird. Let's see what else we can get. This is the super macro apparently. So let me zoom in. As you can clearly see the color difference. Now I'm gonna lift it up just so you have a better light of it. If I switch from the 16 to the macro, you can see that the macro has way more yellow / orange kind of tint to it, which is really weird. Now it could be due to the lamp right over here, that is more of a warm tone, but it's not that warm of a tone. So yeah, now let's use the macro right here. So it looks like this is as close as I can get. So we got two photos right here. Let's just move this to the side. There we go. So this is the 16 megapixel, and this is actually fairly accurate color. I'm quite surprised actually. This looks almost the exact same as it does for me, looking at it straight up the blend. Not sure if it's gonna look the same way on the camera. That could be questionable considering the lighting and just the way the camera captures the screen of the phone, but it is fairly close to how this blend actually looks like to me. And honestly, you can see that the quality is okay. It's nothing groundbreaking right here. It does create this bokeh effect in the back, although something again special here. And it is fairly detailed. I'm really more surprised with the color reproduction here. It is way better than I expected. But then we can look at the macro right here. Now, let me just maybe hold the phone a little bit better. So there we go. So it looks fairly good. Now going back to the macro, I'm not sure if this is visible, but this is like the white on the cactus, the white like spikes with this kind of fuzzy stuff. On the photo it almost looks orange. I'm not sure if you can, I mean obviously you can see it, I'm pretty sure. So this is just wrong. This is not even close to how the colors of this look like. And obviously you can also see that the quality of this is, well, nothing to brag about. It is quite bad. Still you're gonna be able to get closer in than you were able with the 13 megapixel. Although, actually, no, I take that back. 13 megapixel wins here. So, yep, I wouldn't use the macro lens on here, which is actually a surprise. In most of the cases, when you have a 13 megapixel, the macro will be better. But in this case, the macro is so garbage that it can't even outperform this 13 megapixel sensor, which makes, again, in this case, two useless sensors at least. So we have the depth and the macro lens that you should, well, depth you won't be really touching it, the phone kind of utilizes and you don't really have access to it, but the macro, just stay away from it. If you want to get something up close, like I was just doing right here, simply just get a normal camera right here, the 13 megapixel, capture as close as you can, as close as the phone allows you while still being in focus, and you'll have a better photo than you would with a macro. So this switch right here, just completely forget about its existence. It's useless, and I strongly advise you to not use it. But yeah, outside of that, the 13 megapixel does a fairly decent job at capturing photos. They are, for the price range, they're okay. I'm not going to be complaining about it. At least it still does a better photo than the macro, and overall the color reproduction was really nice and accurate, which was actually surprising to me. Now also we can look at the selfie, and it looks okay. Looks a little bit stretched actually, which is a little bit weird. It's also a little bit blurry on the face, probably doing some face smoothing, but it is okay. For an 8 megapixel selfie, I have to say that it's okay. Later, whatever, I don't want it. There we go. And then moving finally to the actual internals of the device, we have a Helio A25, so fairly budget processor in here, and the phone itself has more variants than I would have expected. So we have we're gonna start off with sizes and then go to RAM of each of the memory sizes. So we have a 32 gigabyte version that comes with 2 gigabytes or 3 gigabytes RAM. Then we have a 64 gigabytes version with a 3 gigabyte RAM or 4, and 128 with a 4 gigabyte RAM. Now, when it comes down to it, I would advise you to stay away from the lowest model. Even though we have expandable storage, the 3 gigabyte RAM, which you can get maxed out, it's not going to be enough in my opinion. The device itself isn't fast, so I would encourage you to just kind of try to get as much advantage in terms of performance as much as you can. So I would advise you to go for the 4 gigabyte version. So in this case, it will be the mid-range 64 gigabyte with 4 gigabyte RAM. If you're not keen on having a lot of storage, that's basically the 64, but if you want more storage, then go for the 128. And outside of that, you can expand the storage further if you need that. It does have an SD card, so you can slap one in there and expand it past the either 64, 30 or 120, whatever you want. You can drop probably half a terabyte in here, up to most likely terabyte of a SD card. Although I'm not sure how it's going to handle 1 terabyte. 500 gigs should be enough for basically anybody. And then when it comes down to the actual battery, it has a 5000 milliamp hour battery, so that's a fairly huge unit in there. But like I said before, the charger in here that comes with the device is just I just can't, I have no words for this one. So 10 watts, I cannot justify this in any way. So yeah, I'm just gonna skip it actually. Then we also have a fingerprint reader on the back, as you've seen if we flip it over. So it's basically right over here. And mention honorable and not honorable mentions. We have a headphone jack, and next to that cut off full micro USB, speaker grill, well, like I said, the fingerprint, and a fairly decent camera. So those are fairly honorable mentions here for this device performance. Something that I say that it's going to be lacking in is going to be the better charger, because the battery is fairly good on here, but the charger is just unacceptable. The Type-C port, let's just bring this device with Type-C. up to date actually. And NFC. NFC, in my opinion, is one of the more crucial things that I utilize on a day-to-day basis. I pay with my phone all the time, and for basically a device, a phone, to not have NFC that was released most likely in 2020, I don't care what price range this is, NFC ain't that expensive. Just drop it into everything. I'm okay paying $10 more for the device if I have to, as long as I can pay with my phone, which I cannot do with this device, so that's a real shame right here. But finishing it off, for $150, it's a okay device if you're not going to be needing some of those features like I said. If you're not bothered with the micro USB and a fairly slow charging speed, dim display, and lack of the NFC, then this device should suffice for you. It is a okay mid-range device, but for a person that relies on NFC, so they don't have to carry their wallet everywhere, and an actual fast charging, so you can plug your device in and charge it for like, I don't know, 10 minutes and have about 30%. This device is not it. And at the end of the day, it's gonna really depend on what you're looking for in your device. So if you're looking for, like I said, something like I am, then this device, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're looking for optimal budget price device that just functions and does several things okay, then this device is fairly good enough in my opinion. And that being said, I'm gonna finish up the video here. So if you found it helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.